Let's start with this, because this one idea really just changes everything. The old rules of business, they're gone. It's not about being the biggest company on the block anymore. No, it's about being the smartest and, more importantly, the fastest at turning a great idea into something customers actually want and value.
So that begs the really big question, right? If the old playbook is out the window, what does the new one even look like? How do you actually build a company that can not just survive, but really thrive in this new world?
Well, a huge part of the answer comes down to this one absolutely critical role, the Agile product manager. Think of them as the architect of value itself.
So here's how we're going to break this down today. First, we'll look at this new corporate playbook. Then we'll dive into how PMs turn vague ideas into solid insight. After that, we'll cover the economics of saying no, which is huge. Then, influencing people when you're not their boss. And finally, we'll tie it all together to see how they become that architect of value.
All right, first up, a new corporate playbook. To really get a handle on the solution, the product manager, you first have to understand the problem. And it's a big one, a massive shift in how companies create value. You know, it used to be that winning in business meant you controlled physical stuff, factories, supply chains, who got the best shelf space at the store. But today, the most valuable companies on the planet win with things you can't even touch. Their biggest assets are code, data, and the customer loyalty you build when you deliver an amazing product experience. And this shift left a massive hole in most companies. You had project managers keeping things on schedule, but nobody was really owning the strategic why. You know, why are we building this in the first place? And so, the product manager role was basically born to fill that vacuum.
And this right here, this is the core paradox of the job. The PM is on the hook for the product's success or failure. But here's the kicker. They have zero formal authority. They don't manage the engineers. They don't manage the designers. They can't tell anyone to do anything. So their power has to come from somewhere else entirely.
So how in the world do they succeed? Well, it all starts with a major mental shift, moving from just having ideas to generating real insight. And that journey, it always starts with customer pain.
You see, so many companies fall into this trap of solution-first thinking. They hear about a cool new technology, let's say AI, and they immediately start thinking, where can we use this? Great product managers do the complete opposite. They start by finding a real, painful, validated customer problem, and only then do they design a solution to fix it.
And this slide just makes that difference so incredibly clear. I mean, look at this. On the left, you've got these vague, hopeful guesses we think users would like, but on the right, you have specific, quantified, expensive problems. Our sales reps are wasting 37 minutes a day, and it's costing us $2 million a year. See the difference? One is a lottery ticket, the other is a strategic investment.
And listen, not all problems are worth solving. The ones that build great businesses, they tend to have these 4 traits. The problem happens a lot, it's genuinely frustrating for the user, it costs them real time or money, and whatever they're doing to solve it now just isn't cutting it.
This is the killer question. Seriously, it's used at places like Alphabet to just cut through all the noise. It's so powerful because it forces you to focus on 2 things, the customer's reality and the strategic reason to act now. If you can't answer this question in a sharp, compelling way, you are not ready to build the thing.
Okay, so let's say you found a great problem. Now you face the next giant hurdle. You have to master the tough, high-stakes game of prioritization. We call this the economics of no.
This is the brutal, honest truth of building anything. Your resources, your team's time, their brainpower, your budget, it's all finite. Every single time you say yes to building one feature, you are implicitly saying no to 1,000 other things you could have built instead. That's opportunity cost, and a PM's main job is to manage that trade-off.
And this is how they do it. They don't just guess. They use simple but powerful frameworks, like this impact versus effort matrix, to bring some discipline to the chaos. Suddenly, the conversation isn't about whose idea is the loudest. It's a strategic discussion about where we can get the most bang for our buck. You can immediately see those quick wins right there in the top left.
And believe me, the stakes here are incredibly high. When prioritization fails, these are the symptoms you see. Your team is constantly switching gears, killing their productivity. You're shipping stuff, but none of the important numbers are going up. The product starts to feel bloated and confusing, and eventually, your best people just get burned out. Focus isn't just a nice-to-have, it's a survival tactic.
Which brings us right back to that core paradox we talked about. Okay, you've got the right problem, you have your priorities straight.
Now, how do you get everyone to rally behind the plan when you're not anyone's boss? The answer is you have to master the art of influence.
Think about it. The product manager sits smack in the middle of this incredibly complex web of teams. You've got engineering, design, sales, marketing, the list goes on. And the PM's job is to get all of these different groups, each with their own goals and pressures, all rowing in the exact same direction. It's a massive challenge.
And here's a look at why it's so difficult. Engineering is worried about scalability and code quality. Sales is trying to hit this quarter's number. Design is obsessed with the user experience. All of these are valid, important concerns, but they often conflict. The PM has to be the integrator who can weave them all into one coherent strategy.
So how do they pull it off? It's not about being charismatic or a smooth talker. It's about earning credibility through these three things. You learn to communicate complex ideas simply. You develop real empathy for what other teams are going through. And you ground every single one of your arguments in cold, hard evidence, not just your opinion.
So let's put it all together. When you combine that problem-first mindset with ruthless prioritization and the ability to influence, the product manager evolves. They stop being just a coordinator and they become something much more powerful, the architect of value.
And this is really the best definition of the job. It's not about writing tickets or managing a backlog. It's a deeply strategic role responsible for making sure that every single drop of the company's effort is aimed at the right target, is executed in the right way, and for reasons that actually matter to the customer and the business. When you boil it all down, the entire operating system for a great product manager comes down to these three things we've just talked about. They can translate real customer pain into a vision, turn that vision into a smart plan, and then align everyone to get it done. That's the whole game. And we'll end on this question because it gets to the heart of the mindset. The best PMs practice what's called extreme ownership. When things go wrong, they don't point fingers. They look in the mirror and ask, what could I have done differently? It's that relentless accountability that ultimately builds incredible products and incredible companies.